Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Chronicles of Executive Presence. I am Nandita, an executive presence coach who has been working with CXOs across organizations, across industries, across geographies for the last 9 years. And in this series called Chronicles of Executive Presence, I intend to bring some of the leaders of the industry to talk about leadership and executive presence to you. The way this series is going to be structured would be that we would be doing 3 fireside discussions with 3 different leaders on Sunday at 5 p.m. This would then culminate into a panel discussion about these, where these leaders are going to share their views, discuss, dissect what is executive presence and what is leadership with regards to the Indian scenario. Today with me, I have Mr. Jogendra Singh, who has 34 years of experience in the corporate industry. He's a chartered accountant by profession, and currently he's the president finance for Hero Enterprise. He's on the board of Hero Enterprises for steels, real estate, insurance intermediaries, and L&D, apart from being all the non-profit entities. He was the CFO of Hero Cycle Steels and the CAO of Daimler India Commercial Vehicles. It is a pleasure and a delight to welcome Mr. Jogendra Singh for the first episode of Chronicles of Executive Presence, the Fireside. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Nandita. Thanks for introducing me. And I'm pretty excited to be here.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine. So let's go straight into the fireside discussion, which is a little more casual to understand what are your views on executive presence and on leadership in the Indian context. So let me start straight with the first questions. You, in your experience of 34 years, have worked with various organizations, Indian corporates and corporates from outside. What are the 3 or 4 characteristics or attributes of a leader that you think are imperative for a person to be successful in the corporate world?
Yeah, good. Thanks, Nandita. So, Nandita, what happens is, the leadership traits have evolved over a period of time.
Okay.
But there are certain fundamental principles of leadership that have always been there. So if I really talk about those fundamental, leadership principles, I call them pride. And when I say pride, I mean passion, respect, integrity, discipline, and empathy. This is the platform or the backbone, whatever we want to, call this. A leader has to have this. So when I talk about passion, I mean this passion is in whatever you do. Are you in that moment? Are you fully focused on whatever you have? Are you committed to that whatever you're doing at that point in time? And if you are, that is what truly brings excellence. So there are Mercedes-Benz, we say excellence or nothing, best or nothing, right? So best or nothing is something when, it comes only when you are completely passionate about whatever you're doing at that moment. You know about what purpose you're doing, and you understand that larger purpose. And then I talk about respect. Respect is something which is very fundamental to a leadership. We say Atmavat Sarva Bhutenu Pashyati Sapandita. So if you expect people to behave with you in a certain way, it is absolutely essential that you also behave with those people in that way, irrespective of the hierarchy, irrespective of the position at which you are. You have to make sure that you are treating with respect everybody. And the best way to earn respect is to give respect. I think the formula is very, very simple, in that sense. Difficult to practice. However, the formula is very simple. In any case, in the life, problems are complex. Solutions are very simple. So this solution is, primarily very, very simple. And then I say integrity. And integrity is to yourself. I am not really talking about integrity in a very narrow sense of, we talk about financial integrity, honesty, and things like that. However, what I'm talking about integrity is integrity to yourself, to your purpose. Whatever you're doing, are you doing this in the right way? Is this what you should do? Is this what would be the best for organization? Does it hurt anybody in the wrong way? And these are the questions you have to really ask yourself. And if you're okay with these, with your answers, then please go ahead and do it. To me, that is integrity. Discipline. Discipline is again something, the best of talents in this world we have seen going completely waste if you are not disciplined. So therefore, it is very important to bring discipline to your talent. And once you have talent and you have discipline, then you are going to really realize your potential, as I say. And empathy, in today's world, especially in last 2 years, what we have seen around the world, this is one ingredient which is absolutely maximum in demand. A leader, if he does not have empathy in these times, cannot be a leader. A leader who does not have empathy at any time can never be a leader. So empathy is again, something. So I really call it pride. Now, going forward, I would like to say that there are certain more ingredients that you have to really add to this magic formula, so to say.
Okay.
And what are these
ingredients? Okay.
Currently, we are going through a digital era. We say this is a digital era.
Right.
Every time really look at it, from industry, you're saying for industry 4.0, now even 5.0, we are talking about, finance 2.0, management 4.0. All of this is talking about going towards digitalization. And when you go into the digitalization, there are certain fundamental things which have really changed. And since the business has changed, since the business model has changed, the requirements of the business has changed, therefore the principles of leadership have also evolved in a way. Yes. So one of the major thing I say is sharing. If you really look at the hierarchical world, that we had, and hierarchical world, in the hierarchical management, was started at the time of Industrial Revolution 1.0 when it started. And this was done primarily to promote efficiency and production, right?
Yes.
And this is where the decision-making power, the information was concentrated on the top, and the decision would be pushed down. Today, if you really look at it, the expertise resides at the bottom. This is where, if you really look at it, in a digital world, the tech-savvy people are who? The people at the bottom are more tech-savvy than the guy sitting on the top. So the person sitting on the top has really make this entire process what I call is democratization. Democratization of data. Sometimes we talk about, so that sharing has to be done. Information has to go where it belongs to. If I am sending a person, I'll give you an example. If I'm sending a person in a real estate and he's going to speak to the customer, I do not expect him to call me back and ask me, sir, this is it. Can I go ahead on this or not? He should have all the information, whatever is required. He should know till what number he can take a decision himself. You must empower him, and you empower him only when you share the information. So from holding the information to sharing the information. Leaders today have to be facilitators and catalysts, right? Beautiful. That is, which will create a sense of trust in the entire organization. And today that is something which is extremely, extremely important in my view. So these are, a few, you call them traits or you call them skills. I call them skills, and why I call them skills is, again, something this is completely learnable.
Beautiful. So pride with sharing is something that is very interesting. And of course, you need to build trust. So my question is, you work with organizations across in India, outside. Do you see a difference in the way leaders behave or I would use the word behavior across different geographies? Is there an Indian way of leadership and a Western or an Eastern way of leadership that you've experienced? Because You worked
So
across, and I'm sure
yeah,
you will be able to add some value there.
no, I think the basic leadership principles remain same around the world. This is like
Okay.
eternal truths. These are what we call shashvat satya. So these are eternal
Okay.
truths. So when we talk about I talk about pride, or I talk about sharing and trust, etc. These are absolutely global values. Wherever you have to deal with people, you have to trust them, especially in today's scenario. You have to do that. So fundamentally, there is no difference in the leadership principles. However, there would
Okay.
be cultural differences, and
Okay.
especially when you're dealing with, dealing across geographies, then it is absolutely necessary that you really take care of, those sensibilities that come from those cultural backgrounds. So somebody, a normal action could be good for India, and Indian. There is an additional, thing I would like to really talk about in the Indian context. So there is a lot of spirituality, that comes,
Yes.
a family, sense, that comes in the Indian leadership. So that is an additional thing I would say, which comes with a particular stamp of, Indian leadership skills, I would say. So that is how I
Wow.
really see it.
That was insightful, actually. A very different perspective on how leaders in India are a little different. So, it is said that an agile leadership presence is important to inspire and motivate others, to influence various stakeholders, to build that trust that is required as a leader. What, according to your experience, are some of the key components of this leadership presence that we're talking about, or which is often spoken about?
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about leadership presence or executive presence, what is it that you're talking about gravitas? You're talking about uh, you belong to the place where you are sitting. You are firmly rooted where you are
Mhm.
standing, and
Yeah.
that place belongs to you. You own that space. That is exactly one. When I say there is executive presence. So there was something, they say, I know it when I see it. This was one of the quote.
Okay.
I know it when I
Yeah.
see it. It's very
True.
difficult to define. People say that what are the different components of executive leadership or executive presence or leadership presence. As I say, you can talk about appearance, which is, in my view, a hygiene, factor. Of course, you have
Very
to
true.
be absolutely dressed to the occasion, neat, and that does not mean you have to be in branded clothes or anything like that. You have to be just
True, very true.
rightly dressed for the occasion. So that is appearance. Hmm?
Okay.
And apart from then appearance, then the X factor, what we say comes. So whether it's your poise, whether it's your charm, whether you communicate, how do you communicate? So primarily you connect with the people. To me, the key word
Okay.
would be connecting with your audience.
Beautiful.
So
Okay.
whenever we are talking about, whether it is an audience that we are talking about, or we are talking
Mm-hmm.
about, you know, in a working space, are you connecting with the people? Are you connecting with your audience?
Okay.
That would be key in my view.
So for you, apart from appearance, which is basically a hygiene factor, a connect with your various stakeholders. It could be your team members, it could be your customers, it could be your bosses, is extremely important for you to have that gravitas, that poise, to people to see you as a leader.
Absolutely, and there is one more aspect. Sometimes I
Hmm.
talk about putting humor into it.
I
So
was
that is
waiting for
another thing,
that.
which is absolutely important. And there was a wonderful book, written by, released by McKinsey very recently. It's called Humor
Yeah.
Seriously. Hmm? And I
Okay.
definitely believe that, humor is something which is extremely important, plays a very extremely important part of executive presence in a way. It aids, it's a catalyst.
Beautiful. So I'm going to go a little deeper into this humor part of it because I do see you using a lot of humor. I would want you to define this humor because a lot of times this humor is seen as being frivolous, being funny, And a lot of Indian leaders in particular do not advocate humor as much as a lot of Western leaders do. And I've had the privilege of working with a lot of Western leaders also. So if you could just throw some light on that for me.
No, there are actually there is nothing like the Indian leaders do, or it's the question of basically one, your own belief, that you need to lighten up situation when you are connecting. Humor connects much more effectively than seriousness. That's what I feel, and at least a dose of the humor, in my view, that dash of chaat masala or the that gives a flavor to the dish. So to my mind, so I'll give you a very example of just 2 days ago. There was a friend of mine. She's a communication expert, and she wrote a piece on pause. Say the pause is also very, very important in communication. I said, yes, it's absolutely very, very important. And I just wrote a comment on that. Yes, it's extremely important, unless it is the Atal pause, because only Atal Bihari Vajpayee can carry it. So, you see, it's a very small thing, but that a little bit of humor in best of the situation, worst of the situations, creates that kind of atmosphere where things can go smoothly, becomes a catalyst.
Beautiful. So you have experience over 3 decades, and you've seen industry grow, evolve, and leadership grow and evolve over these years. And with all due respect to the upcoming leaders of tomorrow, what, according to you, are the 1 or 2 things that you think that they have to and must focus on to become great leaders of tomorrow?
There are few things, of course, I would say. One is that they have to prepare well. Whenever they are doing anything, they are preparing for a project, they are preparing for a presentation, or they are giving a presentation. A very, very important thing for the young leaders is to prepare and prepare well. And when I say prepare, not only you create the content, you also try and anticipate what kind of questions can be asked, where I can go wrong in my approach. What if there is a catastrophe? What do I do? What are the risk situations? If there are any risk situations, what would be the mitigation? So you have to first prepare very well. Second thing, and a very, very important thing in my view, is especially the young leadership, they feel that if I'm a leader, I'm here to speak. I'm here to give orders. I say it, kindly reverse it. Please listen. Listen 75 to 80% of the time that you spend with your team. And I'm really telling you, listen 75 to 80% of the time. That is what will primarily give you enough resources, enough thought process to really move in the right direction. So you do listen more, and instead of giving orders, etc., you must get into some kind of a followership. You create trust with people so that people can follow you instead of they obey you. So there is a huge difference between following you and obeying you. So this is one distinction. Third is you should engage with your people, and this engagement can start. So I'll give you an example. Suppose I want to start a digital transformation process in finance. A few months before I start, I should start talking about it with the teams, and not only with the finance team, but also with senior leadership in different companies, which will get affected with that. What would be the budget? What would be the benefits? So all of this has to really come together, and then if you do that, absolutely it works much better.
So I'm summing up the 3 things that you've said for the young leaders, and that is they need to plan not only for what they are doing, but also plan the mitigation. They also need to engage more, and they need to listen. So all the young leaders who joined us here, these are words of wisdom coming in from a man who has proved that leadership is par excellence, and he has been there in the industry for more than 30 years. A leader which a lot of people look up to. So I would like to end this session because it's a fireside. It's a quick preview into what we are talking about before we enter the final discussion on the 5th of December. What is your one-line advice to all the viewers who are listening into you?
One-line advice. One-line advice, is what my tagline is. I said, "Jindagi zinda dili ka naam hai. Murda dil kya khaab jiya karte hain." Always take initiative. Unless you take initiative, unless you learn to fail, you fail, fall, get up, and move forward. Beautiful. That is what should be the mantra. Don't fear, be fearless. This is what really take you places. That's my take on it.
Don't fear, be fearless. Take initiative, fall, get up, and start moving. Those were the words of wisdom from Mr. Jogendra Singh. Thank you so much, sir, for being here with us on the Fireside today. And I hope all the listeners here today do log in on 5th of December at 5 p.m., where 2 more leaders from across industries would be talking about and discussing in detail what is executive presence and how Indian leaders can make it to the international world, or what are some of the nuances that we need to be careful about when we step out. Because having the experience of work with leaders, the components are the same. The emphasis given on those components across industries, across geographies, across ethnicities is very different. And here is your chance to catapult to success by listening to the best in the world. Thank you so much, and see you next Sunday at 5 p.m. with yet another leader. Thank you, sir, for joining us today.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.